person is, okay, well, I'll follow your lead.
Let the record reflect. We back at it again. I got my boy Charles Carpenter, who wrote the book Handcuff. About to do a little interview, talk about the youth authorities. We got a poem that I need him to recite for us one time.
All right. Thank you for inviting me back. This is Charles Carpenter, the author of the book Handcuff. This piece is called Never Repeat It Again. The concept of this piece is I'm the older version of who I am today, looking back at the younger person that I used to be, warning my younger self about the choices that I'm about to make and the consequences of those choices. So it's called Never Repeat It Again. Say, youngster, let me holler at you for a minute. Let me tell you what you're about to do before you take a step in it. You're going to be great, but I hate to bust your bubble. Before you achieve greatness, you're going to get into a lot of trouble. Don't look at me all dumbfounded. The pain you're about to go through will change your life and ultimately keep you grounded. Right now, you don't want to listen to counsel, and you play wins. You'll learn about the death of a lot of your friends. You know, the ones you've known since elementary. Your fate will be a little different. You'll be serving life in the state penitentiary. While you're doing hard time, you'll get to the point where you start to draw the line. And the moment will come when you decide that your life of crime is over. You'll stop doing your own will and call upon the name Jehovah. You'll start to listen to counsel because you've learned from your mistakes. Sometimes in life, going through struggles and hardships is often what it takes. Now your experience has become your best teacher, and now you know there's only a few you can call a friend. If there's one thing we've learned from the past, it's never repeat it again.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
So, we want to talk about the Gladiator school, man. How YA was in the 80s.
Okay. All right.
Is that kind of what that poem was about?
Yeah, that poem was about, basically it summed up my life history. I use the terms Fred C. Nellis and YTS, which are two separate institutions of the youth authority. So I did time in Fred C. Nellis and YTS. So the California Youth Authority, I went to the California Youth Authority in 1984 when I was 14 years old. And at that time, it was the formative years of crippling blood. And so, as you can imagine, the composition of all the facilities was black, majority black, and you had the worst of the worst from all over the greater Los Angeles area concentrated in one area. So I went, like I said, in 1984 when I went to reception, which was a Southern Reception Center and Clinic, SRCC. I was processed in, fingerprinted, given a YA number, which was YA 44005. Given my
how old was you then?
My state issue. 14.
14?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you was already banging.
So I was processed. Yeah, I was already banging. So I was sent to the receiving unit, which was Pico. And while I was there, it was several people from Pomona there with me at that time. Dillenger from Southside Village, L-Dog from Tri-5-7, Crazy T was on Drake, Big Moves on Portola at that time. And I was sent to a unit where they sent all the young kids called Cabrillo. And so I stayed there for about a month, and I was shipped out to Fred C. Nellis. Now, we heard rumors about Fred C. Nellis before we got there. We said they told us that you would catch a lot of time there. You know, there's a lot of gang activity going on there, and lo and behold, that rumor was true. So when we got there, I got there with this dude named Snag from Duroc, who is no longer with us. He's deceased. We landed on Truman Cottage, which was the orientation unit, and not even 10 minutes after we got there, the alarm went off in the unit. Fight broke out, and you know, that was the indoctrination of what was going to be a state filled with fights and gang activity. So after I left the orientation unit, now first of all, when we went to that night, we lined up to go to dinner that night. I was looking over at the other residents on Roosevelt College. They were getting ready to go to the dining hall as well, and they looked like they were grown men. I'm looking over there at them. These dudes got braids, 16, 17-inch arms. Looked like they was eating and sleeping on the way pile.
So
I'm like, wow.
How did they accept you, being a 14-year-old coming in there?
Well, I was sent to a unit, a college called Jackson, and it was where like the younger kids went. It was supposed to be for the younger kids, but when I got to Jackson Cottage, there was dudes already 19, 20, 21 years old on that unit, but they had been there for 5 or 6 years. So, me and Snag from Duroc, we went to Jackson, and at that time, the composition of that unit was dominated by dudes from Watts, East Coast, and we had some dudes.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And long story short, man, I was getting into a lot of fights because being from Pomona at that time, 35-7 wasn't as known as it is right now. During that time, with that group of people, it wasn't as known, so they looked at us like outsiders. So I had to do a lot of fighting in order to solidify my position. While I was at Nellis, Yo-Yo from Southside Village, he was on Madison. Lil C was on Kennedy. Lil C from the Village, he was on Kennedy. Satch from Ghost Town, he was on Adams. So we were all, scattered out. And then you had some dudes from Duroc that were there at that time. Bird from Duroc, Ball, Gator didn't come till later. He came in like 87. Wally Gator. But so we was all scattered out. So, everybody had to, basically take care of their business on their own. Because, being from Pomona, I didn't, like majority of the people from the greater Los Angeles area, they had a lot of allies, a lot of homeboys around them. So I didn't have that luxury. So I had to do a lot of fighting. And over time, once I started fighting and everything, and I started winning a lot.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Then my reputation started to increase, and they started to realize, well, shit, the dude from Pomona, they ain't no joke.
Yeah,
so that's how we had to solidify our position at that time. I'll call you right back.
Okay.
You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention Crazy Larry and Strange. They were on Cleveland when I first got to Nellis. with a serving line, and they hook my tray up every time I come through. But yeah, so I had to fight so much to the point where, in my mind, that was just a way of life. Violence became normalized. I normalized violence, and that's just the way it was during that time. So, me being from Pomona, being from 1257, I was in the category with basically how the category that a blood was in, right? Because at that time, the Bloods were the minority. Because you got to think, at this time, you had people that were part of the second generation of Crippin' Blood and emerged into the third generation, because I was the third generation coming in. So you had dudes that was in Nellis at that time that was there for, when I got there in 84, they had already been there since 1979, all the way up to 84. You know, this dude named Boyle from Five Trail Gangster and Keno from Main Street. You know, they was there for a long time. So they was part of the second generation of Crip. And the Bloods, like I was saying, they were in a different category because they were outnumbered. They were grossly outnumbered. And looking back, there was no Blood at that time that was not down. It was about their business. So basically, for those of us that were in there at that time from Pomona, we had to handle our business. It wasn't a matter of, negotiating. When it was time to handle our business, we had to. And that's how the reputation that we developed over the years was solidified.
Yeah. Yeah, so it really was Gladiator school then.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah.
So who was the most respected in the youth authorities?
Well, see, the thing about the youth authority, when you come into the youth, unlike prison, when you go to prison, you come in with full respect until your conduct dictates that you lose respect. So in the youth authority, it was backwards. You come in with absolutely no respect, and you're going to earn it as you go along. I mean, there are rare exceptions. There were rare exceptions, dudes that just came in, that it was just squabblers, and they, off the top, it was just respected. But everybody was respected if you got down, and no matter if...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I know a lot of dudes that got out and their own homeboys killed it because they was just too wild. You know, over the years I've ran across dudes from different areas, and they told me, well, yes, so-and-so got killed, man. The homie shot him because he was just whooping on the homies. You know, before he went to Nellis, he couldn't fight a lick. After he got out, he was just whooping on people. But those were common stories that were being told by a lot of dudes. You know, I could think back to this dude named Baby Moo from 107 Hoover. The boy was 17 years old. He had hands like sledgehammers, and he was just whooping on dudes. I mean, I never, at that time, I hadn't saw a young dude fight like he was fighting. He was just going through dudes left and right, man. And these dudes were relatively big dudes, and he was just running right through them. So they didn't have no choice but to respect him, because he was a squabbler. So he got out, and his own homies killed him. And that was another common occurrence at that time, during that time. And a lot of those dudes was getting out, was getting killed, left and right. I mean, everybody that was on that, a lot of the guys that was on Jackson College with me are dead now. Shamrock from Main Street, Bo P from Hoover, Baby Crazy from Five Deuce Hoover. All them dudes got out and got killed. Because that mentality that we developed in Nellis, it was just, for lack of a better term, we was just too turned up. And that's the way we were.
So back in the 80's, right? In YA, was it racial like it is today in the penitentiary?
No, because back then, like I said, it was majority black, so we were fighting each other. So you had
So what I'm saying is like if it was a Mexican on the yard, would you be able to eat something after him?
Oh no, they did their own thing, we did our thing, but it was really no real racial divide. But they always sat in the back in the day room. They always had the back row.
Yeah.
They sat in the back. But yeah, it didn't start really developing. The full-fledged racial politics didn't start developing until everybody went to prison. But we could see it was forming in the youth authority. It was forming.
Yeah, because I could imagine like most of the head dudes that was probably like Mexican mafia probably was in there too.
Yeah, that's what.
And they was trying to get their shit organized back then.
Yeah. So a lot of dudes that was in the youth authority, they moved on. They moved to the rank and files of that criminal lifestyle. You know, a lot of them became CCOs, Blue Notes, UBN, Bloodlines, Mexican mafias and stuff like that. And back then,
are any of those still around? Like Blue Notes and CCOs and shit like that? Is that still active or no?
Well, when I was in New Folsom, they had some dudes that were part of that structure up there. Yeah. So, but like on lower levels and stuff like that, you won't really find too many people that are part of that structure because, number one, if the administration finds out about it, they're going to remove them off the line. So, but yeah, they were on the higher levels. Yeah, that's where you find them.
Yeah. A lot of stuff is dying down though now. It's like a lot of shit changing.
Yeah, the old regime is dying out. You know, a lot of those dudes are older, and it's a new generation is coming up behind them, and they're not as structured, disciplined as they were.
Have you kept in touch with anybody from YA that you was in there with?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I've ran into several people that was in YA with me. But as far as me keeping in touch with them when I was on the streets, no, I didn't. I ran into a lot of them when I was in prison.
Yeah.
Ones that are still alive.
So you pretty much instead of going to high school, you was pretty much in YA and shit like that, huh?
Pretty much. I only have 2 weeks in public high school.
2 weeks.
I went to Gladiator for about 2 weeks, got kicked out for a fight. They sent me to Park West. I was in Park West for maybe a week. Got arrested right there at Park West. Yeah. So, yeah. All my education comes from being incarcerated.
Yeah. So that's what basically kept you busy, is learning.
Yeah, because back then you had to, in the youth authority, you had to go to school school, they placed strong emphasis on school. In fact, they weren't even going to let you out if you didn't have your diploma or your GED. When you went to board, they wouldn't let you out until you got it.
Oh, hell yeah. At least they made y'all get some degrees and shit. I remember you said you got a few degrees under your belt.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, back then, the Youth Authority, they offered a wide range of educational benefits, college degrees and vocational trades. But, you know, looking back now, I mean, I squandered those opportunities because of my love of being involved in the streets. You know, I had the opportunity to get a BA degree when I was in YTS.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't take advantage of it. I did one semester for Laverne University, and that was it. But, you know, like I said, you know, hindsight is 20/20, and foresight is blind as a bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, but it, like I said, those experiences damaged us because what it did was we normalized violence. And so to this day, you know, there are still traces of that behavior instilled in me from Fred C. Nellis. You know, I have to really exercise self-control not to act like I used to when I was 14 years old, because of, you know, the climate at that time. And at that time, I did what I felt I had to do in order for me to feel safe at that time.
Yeah, I understand for sure.
Yeah.
It's like survival. You go into survival mode.
Yeah. So, and then we had counselors. You had counselors that used to just let us get out, and it was normalized. You had counselors. You know, you could have a problem with a dude on the unit, and the counselor would be like, "Okay, well, go clear that cell out. You guys go up in there and handle it. We're gonna sit out here and watch. Go up in there, take care, handle your business, you know, and come out. And it's over." But, you know, so they were supposed to be there to help us and instill some positive instruction in us, but they were encouraging violence, and so again, it damaged a lot of us.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
We carried that violent mindset into adulthood.
Yeah. Off top.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Off top.
And every action, every encounter that we had on the streets, we referred to, you know, basically our training for Nellis, and we used that training to solve that situation at that time.
Yeah, it's like became soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call you right back.
Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Yeah, it just it damaged us in a lot of ways. And knowing what I know today, I'm able to identify the damage that it caused, and able to, you know, look within myself in order for me to make those changes that I need to make, because you know, you can't get out and live in a free society and handle problems through violence. That doesn't work. You know, it may have worked in that environment at that time, but in a normal civilized society, that doesn't work. So the problem was we could not turn that switch off. We we actually had post-traumatic stress disorder. I have post-traumatic stress disorder to this day. And so we had the problem came in is because we couldn't turn the switch off. It was either all or nothing. And this is the way it is. This is how we gonna handle it. So, for me, I had to identify where this mindset came from. How did I become the person who normalized violence? And I had to identify alternate ways to cope with these types of situations. It's called coping skills. Healthy coping skills that aren't violent. A lot of stuff wasn't healthy for us. That's why you had a high recidivism rate back at that time. You know, people were coming in and out. Why? Because they were fed large doses of violence. That's all that they knew. And that was the climate in YA and in prison. That's why you had so many black and brown people that were incarcerated, because we didn't have any other ways. We didn't choose to exercise other ways to handle problems. We only handled it one way, through violence.
Yeah. Do you think that's an agenda? That was an agenda?
Say it again.
Do you think that was like an agenda for the black and the brown?
It could be. I mean, you know, that's a possibility, because they didn't really, the powers that be really didn't care if we were rehabilitated or not, because we were commodities. Unbeknownst to us, we didn't know it, but we were paychecks. So a lot of people behind the scenes had a vested interest in keeping us incarcerated, because we paid mortgages, we put people through college. We provided the officers with a career. Without us, they would have no career. So, oh yeah, absolutely. They had an agenda to keep us incarcerated, keep us ignorant, and allow us to perpetuate the cycle of violence, because we were job security for them.
I think they was more so scared, so they just let the shit play out.
Yeah, that too. And they figured, well, as long as they're being violent towards each other, let's let it play out like it is. Until they start focusing on us, then we'll step in and correct it. But as for right now, let them self-destruct. And that's why my book, Anatomy of Urban Genocide, I talk about that. You know, I talk about, in my opinion, my perspective on how things that are playing out in society. A lot of it is there's a hidden hand that is maneuvering things in place to our detriment. When I say our, I mean minorities, poor people, people that are not afforded the same opportunities as the affluent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all a big chess game. So now, knowing what I know now, for me, it's about being able to play the game, knowing the rules of the game, and then doing it from a legal.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Doing it from a legal perspective. I don't have to sell drugs. Why? Because I have other options. I have legal options. See, a lot of times we didn't know that we had options. We thought that we locked ourselves in a box, and we thought that was it. At least I did. You know, my mindset was, I'm gonna be a gangster all my life. I'm gonna sit out here and try to get rich and be a successful dope dealer. I mean, you know, if that's a person's goal to get rich, you can still have that same vision, but just transfer those skills that we learned in the street, just transfer them to something legitimate.
Yeah.
Because you had a lot of guys out there that were they had a small measure of success selling drugs, or you know, transfer that mindset to a business mindset, a legitimate business.
Yeah, I met a lot of smart people behind the wall, man. Like, you meet a lot of smart people, and it's just they get caught up in doing a heinous crime. But
Yeah.
there's some good people in there still, and they smart as fuck.
Yeah. So now it seems like you have this platform, you know, it's time for us to utilize these platforms and share our stories, because we can be as smart as we want to be, but if we don't exercise what we know, then it's just a waste of time. We're just using our mind.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Just storing a bunch of facts in our mind, and we're not executing what we know.
Yeah. So what would you say to the youth, like, so they wouldn't follow in the footsteps of going through YA or juvenile hall or any of that type of stuff?
I would say that you have to start with the love of self. If you love yourself, people that love themselves, they don't put themselves in a position to be incarcerated. See, when I was a young kid, I thought I loved myself, but I didn't. My actions showed that I did not, because I kept putting myself in position and making decisions that the result of those decisions indicated that I hated myself. Because if I'm making a decision to put myself in harm's way or become incarcerated, then that means that I do not love myself. So I would say that if the first step is to love yourself, the second step is to listen to counsel and learn from the experiences and mistakes of others, so that you don't have to make those same mistakes. And realize that you are valuable, and that you have worth, and that you deserve better.
Off top, you definitely don't want to be in prison or in jail. You know?
Yeah. Hey, this phone about to cut off because it's about to be count time, brother. So thank you for this opportunity, man, and I really appreciate you allowing me to tell my story on your platform, man.
Off top, man. Yeah.
So,
we're gonna make it happen, man.
Absolutely, man. Thank you again, man. I'll touch base with you later, man.
All right.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Let the record reflect.